Wow, 7 mind-blowing sales books that I'm gonna share with you today that I don't think a lot of people have heard of that you can tap into to enhance your sales game. My name is Morgan J. Ingram from Sell Better, and subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're continuously giving you sales tips and knowledge for you to enhance your sales profession. And speaking of a profession, you need to always be gathering and enhancing skills in order to get to that next level. And the best way to do that is to read. So let's talk about the 7 books that have changed the game for me from a selling perspective and helped me close a lot of deals and source a lot of pipeline. So the first one that I'm gonna talk about is question-based selling right here. Now, ironically enough, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now, and the author is from Atlanta, and his book is one of the best books I've seen on discovery and asking great questions. And once I read the book, I was able to be more approachable in the way I ask questions. I didn't feel aggressive, and I was able to close more opportunities because I had more clarity in the conversations. One of the main things that I learned from the book that you can start using today is the humble disclaimer. I even use it in my personal life when things get a little bit too aggressive too, so you can take this tip from me. When you use the humble disclaimer, it's about diffusing the situation and allowing you to ask a question that might be tough or could seem aggressive. So let's just go over an example. I might say, hey, I know this might be an odd question. Or I might be like, hey, I know this question's out of the blue. I get that person to feel comfortable, I diffuse tension, and now I can deliver a question to get me the real answers. So go check out that book if you wanna get better at discovery and you wanna get your questions to be better in your professional and in your personal life. Now let's go to the next book. This one is by one of my good friends, Todd Capone, The Transparency Sale. And when it comes to the transparency sale, it's about being transparent, yes, but it's also about being proactive with your buyers and not trying to sell them something that's an illusion or something that you truly don't offer. And Todd does a good job of breaking down psychology on how we should be selling, how should we approach our buyers, and how people, ultimately at the end of the day, just want to be talked to like a normal person. The biggest takeaway that I got from this book was, simply put, be proactive with what you're not good at. So let me give you an example. Someone may be asking you like, hey, what are you known for? What are your differentiators? And you could be like, well, hey, before I go into what we're good at, let me tell you what we don't do. We're not good at presentations, or we're not good at keynotes or things of that nature. I'm just giving examples, but these are things that you can state like, hey, we're actually not good at these things, and here's what we're good at. It allows for people to feel more warm towards you, like, oh, well, if they're telling the truth here, they're gonna continuously tell me the truth as well. So check out the Transparency Sale. Shout out to my guy Todd, he did a good job on that one. Now, the third book here, this one is very, very interesting. I found this on Amazon and I was just like, I wanna get better at sales. Sometimes I'll do that. And the Consistency Selling book talks about being consistent in sales. I know a lot of these titles are pretty self-explanatory, but let's dive a little bit deeper. It talked about having systems and processes in place to be successful. Yes, you naturally can be good at the gift of gab. You can ask good questions and be naturally good at that. However, sales is a continuous enhancement of getting better at your craft, and that requires practice, implementation, and different ways of going about this profession. So within that, in this book, it talks about, here are the things you should be doing. One of the biggest takeaways that I got from consistency selling was having a process for everything. This is the book where I have one of my quotes that I talk about a lot in my content is an organized schedule leads to organized results, and a sporadic schedule leads to sporadic results. Basically what he was saying is, hey, do you know how many cold calls you should be making? How many discovery calls you need to have per week? How many times should you be closing a deal every month? Sometimes we don't think about these things in detail, especially as sales reps. We wait for our managers to tell us what to do, and that's probably not the best scenario. So consistency selling is, how do you be consistent in your effort? How can you be consistent in your goals? So at the end of the year, you could look at it and be like, wow, I'm doing really well. But that taught me about systems and processes to now every single thing I do has a system and process, and you'll also need that as well. So let's go to the next book here. This is everyone here, but The Law of Success. Now, this one was gonna take you a while to read. This is not a book to speed read, all right? That's not what you wanna do here. This is my favorite book of all time, period. It definitely has sales components as well, why we're adding it as a sales book. But if you had to tell, if you were like asking me like, hey Morgan, what's your favorite sales book? Just book in general, it's this one. All Our favorite sales book is gonna come up later, so stay tuned for that. Now, within the law of success, it talks about having the right energy when you talk to people. It talks about having mentors. It talks about how you continuously need to be growing yourself and getting better. That's in a nutshell. You saw how book this book is. This could literally be another video in itself, but we don't have time for that today. What I will tell you though in the law of success is that it talks about how we need to be tapping more into who we are. And that's the biggest takeaway that I'm gonna give you from this book. And there's a lot of them, but this is the main one, is getting more self-aware on who you are. And one thing it talks about is the definite chief aim. So what happens is most people at the end of the day, they'll go and be like, okay, yeah, I have $1 million quota, that's what I've been given, and that's it. Well, that's not your definite chief aim, that's what the company's is, and that doesn't really drive you to where you need to go. So what I'm telling you to do here is, as a sales professional, figure out what is your definite chief aim. Okay, they give you 1 million, but maybe you hit 1.5. Maybe you get 2 million, and then figuring out, how do I accomplish that goal? Which is a great question, which is why reading that book, it gives you the steps in the blueprint to accomplish your definite chief aim. And even as we're sitting right here, I'm making this content of where we're at right now. One of my definite chief aim was to be in a content house like this. So that's where that came from, is reading that book, because it gives you the vision and it gives you the action steps. Now, let's go to the next book. This is a lighter book, all right? So we went from a heavy book to a lighter book. And this book right here that I really like about it is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Another fantastic book, and even if you do the research on the book as well, it also talks about how it was banned in multiple places. So that tells you how powerful this book is. So in How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? One of the main things that we're talking about with this book is how to truly have conversations with people without being aggressive, also without being crazy. It really is, hey, how do I ask the right questions? How do I create familiarity? And ultimately in this book, the main takeaway is being more curious about the other person so they're more curious about you. So in all conversations, ask questions to people, dive deeper, ask layering questions to those individuals. Just like you would in a sales cycle, the more curious you are as a sales professional, the more your pipeline is gonna pop off. Right? So second to last book here, we got a lot of books. Now, this book right here, you'll see right here, if we kind of go back here, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. When people pick up this book, they probably have no idea what they're about to get themselves into, because the person who wrote this book was an ex-FBI negotiator. And you're probably like, oh cool, I wanna be in the FBI, so let me check it out. Like, I don't know, FBI sounds cool, right? You see Men in Black, maybe you wanna get involved, I don't know. But that's probably why you picked up the book. But then as you go into it more, you realize this is actually a sales book and you didn't even really know it. And also, if you are really into negotiating, selling better, this is the book for you. And also, if you're a visual person, I highly recommend the masterclass as well. Probably one of the best video content I've seen in an extremely long time. Anyways, the book itself just gives stories of all the things he did as a negotiator, how he disarmed all of the terrorists that were there, how he got people to release the hostages. Very, very intense situations, right? This is life or death, and he was able to get people to release all of their hostages or turn down their arms. These are hard things to do. So inside of the book, there's a lot of great examples. The one thing I want to talk about is labeling. Now, labeling, essentially what it means is giving the analysis of a situation without basically saying this is the situation. So as an example, let's say if someone seems lost or confused, or maybe they might say, hey, like, I don't really know why I want to move forward with you. Then you could say, hey, it sounds like this might not be the solution for you. Or you could be like, it sounds like you may be looking at another vendor. So what you're doing is you label the situation. You don't know exactly what it is, but you feel hesitation. You feel like there's a disconnect. So by labeling it, now they're able to be like, oh, that's actually what I'm trying to say, or oh, it's something different. Labeling situations allows for people to elaborate and further explain where they're at, so then you can put yourself in a better situation. So there's a ton of things in here like mirroring, right? Like all great information, the power of no. I'm not gonna spoil the book, but these are just a couple things you can dive into, but labeling is one of my favorite things, because if you can label a situation and say, hey, it sounds like, it feels like, you're not calling them out, you're just trying to assess what's going on, so they give you the real clarity. So you made it to the end. We have the last book here, number 7, which is the Challenger customer. Challenger customer. Now, most of you probably have heard of the book called The Challenger Sale, and it's world-renowned, famous within the sales world. If you're getting into sales, you probably heard of it. However, the Challenger customer is better than the Challenger sale. And that's an aggressive statement. A lot of people might come up on you, I might get comment, it doesn't matter. But it is better because ultimately what is sales about? It's about the customer, not about the salesperson. That makes the Challenger customer better. And what it does is it gives you a breakdown of all the different people that you deal with. Your advocates, your coaches, your skeptics. It tells you in a sales cycle, these are people that you're gonna run into. And ultimately, people only think about the champion and the decision maker, but there are people who are gonna block you off. There are gonna be people who are gonna be skeptical. There are gonna be people who are gonna completely try to block your deal. There are literally people called blockers. So the biggest takeaway that I got from this book, and there's a lot, this could be a video in itself, to be honest. There's a lot of these could be videos in themselves, but we're trying to just give you some ones that are really good. The number one takeaway that I would give you, if you don't even have to read the book if you don't want to, even though I highly recommend it because I believe it is the best sales book out there, is the healthy skeptics. What it talks about is you have a higher chance of winning your deals if you can find who the healthy skeptic is and get them on your side. Because once you get the healthy skeptic on your side, then they become a massive advocate to sell other people internally on your behalf. And then that makes the sales cycle even easier for you, which I believe that's what you want, right? So that's what we want to be able to do there. So find the healthy skeptics, get your champion to identify that, and now you can close more opportunities. So, like I told you, mind-blowing 7 sales books that you can start reading today. And now my question is, what is your favorite sales book? And let us know in the comments.